The Becoming Flame podcast broadcasts pure, unfiltered power exchange that stokes the flame of your being. Because it's time to remember. It's time to return. It's time to become flame. This episode of Becoming Flame is brought to you by Fenix. Fenix is a ritual luxury house devoted to erotic feminine embodiment. We create alchemical intimacy oils and functional fragrances infused with spagyric botanicals designed to soften the nervous system, open the body, and awaken life force vitality. Our formulations are crafted as tools of self-initiation. They are not cosmetic. They are not decorative. They are designed to be felt. They are designed to shift. Each oil facilitates a cellular shift into relaxation and receptivity, activating and opening up an archetypal femininity that your body knows and is yearning to step into. These oils allow the body to open safely into sensual intelligence, magnetism, and creative power. They open the libido and open creative sexual energy. When the body is safe, it softens. When it softens, it receives. When it receives, it creates. And when it creates, the entire world shifts. We believe that women who sit deeply in their bodies, in their erotic intelligence and sovereignty, become powerful creators of their lives and the environments around them. Our products are initiations into that coherence. Luxury and experienced, devotional in use, transformational in effect. Get yours now at fenix.com. That's PHENXX.com. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Becoming Flame podcast. I am your host, Kait Tregenza. So this podcast, we've been moving through some really big topics related to humanness, related to femininity, related to womanhood. And I think that's really important because so few people are really talking about what it takes to become deeply human in your sensuality, your sexuality, your femininity. Becoming an embodied feminine being is not just about the external, about having better sex, about having all of these kinds of superficial changes within you. It is about moving beyond that spectrum because it's 2026 now, and we have a bigger mission in life than just having pleasure or just being a woman. There are so many of us that have moved into that reclaiming of your femininity. And the purpose of this podcast and the purpose of the work that I do is to how to shift you beyond that advanced work into what it means, into this next stage of being. And when you understand that your biotechnology has been tampered with and your understandings of your sexuality and sensuality have been limited or shut down, you'll start to understand what we are trying to explain and disturb within you. It's like to really rattle it around. It's like, so what is the purpose of my sensuality? What is the purpose of my femininity and my embodiment? Because many of us have done a lot of the work around clearing out the religious teachings, conservative policies, and really understood and have come to a deeper understanding around the slavery system that we've all been entwined with at some level. And really what that means is the level of sin, wrongness, shame, all created from a religious and conservative standpoint, results in repressed sexuality, meaning that sexuality has not been experienced, explored, or simply enjoyed for the pleasure and creativity state. And for many of you, you understand that, you know that, you've moved beyond that. You know that sex is for more than procreation. And for a long time, it's obvious that there's been an agenda that both men and women will forget what they know on a deeper level about these matters. So really, we need to think about if sexual relations between a loving, bonded couple, if sex between partners who are bonded, loving, and desiring a life together still isn't free, still doesn't have the ability to explore and open up to oneness, to connection, to creativity, and only has the purpose of climax or orgasm or, you know, something that's localized in the genitals in the form of an ejaculation or for the purpose of procreation, then your sexual experience can be classified from the perspective as limited. And I really want to like think about this as from a perspective of slavery. If you are only having sex and only having good sex even, but for the purpose of making your specific life better, or for having a child, or for having an orgasm, or for releasing pent-up tension or sexual energy, then there is an opportunity for you to expand that beyond the slavery construct, because sexuality is the foundation of creation. The higher the energy that you wish to ascertain for yourself, then as you come into your feminine embodiment around that, you want to share that with your partner, with your family, with your community, with your tribe, with your children. Now, if you think of sexuality as the act of sex, that is very confusing, right? That's like, no, that's not okay, that's not right. Because if you are moving beyond the level of sexuality as being slave-based and being sex-based, then you can start to see that on the level to which you can limit your inhibitions, fear, shame, and repression, then when it comes to your sexuality and your sexual intimacy within you, within your love partner, within your family, then you really want to broaden that and open that into the creation space. So for many women, you are eager, awaiting, really ready to soar into this new earth, into these new energies, to create a universe, an earth of harmonious, balanced energies, then you really need to seek to create balance and harmony in an entire world where only, where women are founding this. But they don't only want to go in there with women, right? We want to bring men along with us. And so we need these two poles, and the poles are activated to the highest light via sexual activity and gender code activations. In true union with a loving partner, the energies will actually merge, then polarize as if a magnet were activating and creating a charge or a force, where previously it did not exist or was not being experienced in that moment. Whereas that electromagnetic charge in connection with the earth, with your partner, with yourself, opens and amplifies your connection not only to that what I keep calling the infinity, but we can also talk about it from within the earth's magnetic grid. And so if you can feel the charge here in the words that I'm speaking, and you can start to feel them, then just have in the back of your mind, like, what would it look like, feel like, be like if you were able to open a magnetic portal through sexual activity, either with yourself, with a beloved, in constant collaboration with the earth, with nature, with a community, however you see it and feel it. And you start to truly understand that sexual relations have very little to do with intercourse and procreation. And we really want to get into the space of like, how does your sexual energy, your eros, your creative life force create? Okay? How could you start to understand the creation of a village, of a community, of an epicenter, of a healthcare system, or an education system, or any of the things that you are desiring and having within your heart? How would you actually redesign systems and structures and ways of living and being in the earth from a place of this feminine, embodied, sexual, sensual, creative life force energy. And so you start to use this energy as if you were able to use it as building blocks to create a life which you actually wish to live in, that promotes freedom, that promotes wellness, that promotes aliveness. And so we need to feel and really know vitality, because what you are emitting, what you are signaling out, becomes what you create. And so that's why we say that the sensual, sexual, intimate relationship that you have with self is the foundational principle of everything else that you do. And we're moving away from this so-called manifesting, or like trying to bring things in, or trying to like covet what somebody else has and create from that place of like envy or outward connection to something. We have to come to a point where we realize that even the principles of manifestation and the teachings around a lot of manifestation teachers are asking you to covet and create and manifest, bring to you possessions or stuff or things to satiate a life based in a slavery system. So if you are still linked into a system of commerce and capitalism, and you can satiate your dullness with more stuff, with a new car, with even just growing a bigger business, even having a bigger audience, having more followers on Instagram, it's all part of and feeding into this slavery system of disconnection, of individualistic living on the planet. And that's kind of part of the issue, right? So we have to be moving beyond that now. This moment in time, it's the coordinate that is in full support of the activation of the aliveness of your life force energy. And through your biotechnology system, your body, your connection to your womb wisdom, your connection to your love centers, your connection to your body as the hypersensitive system that you've been told is too sensitive, too emotional, too problematic. But if you start to actually go, okay, my sensitivity is the superpower. How do I start to feel into the building blocks of this non-visual, non-obvious energy force? And how do I use that to catapult not only humanity and the earth, but myself and my family and my tribe and my community into this dream that I'm holding of a new reality? Okay? And what's interesting right now, I'm sure that you can feel it, especially if you are at this advanced stage of being, where it's like, there's so much embodiment that I have. There's so much sensitivity that I have. I'm really tapping into the other in this different way. I know who's going to call me right before they do. I know that I don't need to go and call thousands of different companies for the right quote. I'll just go to the one that feels right for me. You know, I don't need to ring all the different restaurants. I just know that this is the one that will have a table. I know the right partners. I know the right romantic partners. I know the right women for me. I know what I'm thinking, feeling, and holding in my heart to be true, to be created in this reality. But like but it's all in my vision. It's not physical, you know? So right now we can feel the change in the energies shifting, where we are feeling more assistance to open up the life force structures. And I don't know if you have started, for me, that's felt very different from a skeletal, muscular, and nervous system perspective. So I can actually hold this, but not just hold anything, hold what is actual vitality. And my personal opinion is that almost nobody on this planet has ever known true life force. And that for me is why I find it far easier to work with plant intelligence that hold erotic intelligence are from plant codes, because then we can actually tap into what is the true life force, what is true vitality, what is true erotic intelligence, so that we can return again at that frequency to hold that truth, to hold that level of coherence that's been unadulterated and untampered with. Because I think that life force energy is not only about the giving of or the creating of new life in a form of a new child, but obviously we know that. But I think we don't even know what we can do with it yet. I think that we've been talking about this access point of pleasure, of vitality, of having more energy, and knowing that creation becomes more spontaneous and more synchronicitous and all of those kinds of things, and that we pull together and it becomes more magnetic. But I don't think we truly even know yet what having a village or a community or a country, literally even 4 women sitting together with their full erotic nature untapped to the fullest extent, not just like at the beginning levels, not just like, okay, I'm living a pleasurable and amazing and blessed and charmed life. Like, I'm talking about this idea that you really step into, you're a motherfucking witch. Your life force energy is just, you walk down the street and flowers bloom and animals follow you and things shift and change and open, and you are so connected. You can hear a caterpillar eating. You're so in tune. You're so life filled. You're so erotic. You're so enlivened. You're so turned on and tuned in that your creation of physical life, and by physical life, I mean anything that is of you that you create. So whether that's a business or a book or whatever, it's pulsing with vitality, it's pulsing with life form. I don't think anyone on the planet really has tapped into that. I think there's a lot of things that, stories about Jesus and Mary Magdalene and what they sort of did in those times that have been poorly translated or poorly communicated. But the idea that you can make transformational, like the idea of turning water into wine. I feel like that is something that I've been experimenting with, not water into wine, but the idea of creating coherence around your food, creating harmony around your food, not only its growing structure, but the molecular and cellular quality of the food. These kinds of, and that's working with water, right? That's working with the waters of you and the waters within the plant structures that coalesce and create coherence, whereby your capacity to actually change and alter a state. So I've had these little glimpses into what's possible from an erotic nature. And really what I'm talking to you about in this podcast is it goes so far beyond the basic sensuality of pleasure of erotic nature. This is really around what is the technology of eroticism that brings us into a creation space, that brings us into an ability to understand what our DNA is, where it's been tampered with, where it's been dulled, where it's been turned off, and how do we actually connect back in to our erotic self, and therefore turn on all the lights and turn on all of the stuff that we can actually do. So in my vision and in my belief system, an erotically embodied woman is 100% telepathic. And it might not be like she can read your thoughts or she can send you messages, but the essence of we're once I'm in the frequency that you're in the frequency of the biotechnology is turned on and available, and when we hold that and we live there, the idea of communication across networks, transmissions of network messages, very similar to how trees work, very similar to how the plant kingdom works. You would be able to literally transmit messages via your togetherness, via your system of connection, in the same way that trees do. I don't know how obvious the messages will be for every single person. I think it's going to be a phase of moving us into getting out of the busyness, getting out of the hustle, getting out of the urgency, because that infiltrates our capacity to listen, because there's so much noise. And once we have an ability to actually sit and hold silence and be still and be silent and be alone, you won't need to be that way forever, because there will be a period of time where you'll be like, okay, I am a clear vessel. I can start to hear what's going on. That means I'm ready for reconnection with others. But I think that the other thing that's required in stillness and in silence before we get to those points, and before we get to a completely erotic and turned on life and community framework, is the reactivation and the resurgence of collective memories, but also individual memories. So where our full capacities and full abilities were tampered with, either just by a programmation of infiltrated beliefs, but also of cutting us off from our bodies, cutting us off from our ability to live within the body. And so I think what would then happen as we come together as a community and we activate these collective memories and these collective skill sets is that we would start to have collective dreams. We would start to have this sense of community and a sense of communal dreaming derived from a source of pure love, whereby that collective dream, which could be shared by many, is actually being able to be held, because we can't only bring that down as one individual or multiple individuals of people. So for so many, if you really look at what everyone on the internet in this space is saying, we're all individual voices that are deeply yearning for a return to community, a return to tribal life and tribal living, whereby we have community, we have togetherness, and we collectively hold that dream and build that dream together. And because it's in its early formation, a lot of it is really unclear, and people are very nervous and they lack confidence because they don't know how to do it. It's like, well, I'm still trying to do it in the system where that doesn't facilitate this. And so I think the pathway forward into our erotic embodiment needs to be a period of silence and stillness, then needs to be a period of remembering and activation, then needs to come into this community space of, okay, let's hold this collective dream, and then needs to be a coherent teamwork approach, a community approach to actually going and building that out. And that really requires us to learn how to open up to our life force, not just our life force energy in terms of having great sex and enjoying pleasure, but how to open up our life force to creation status, to subscribe to collective dreams and then bring them into physical reality to be shared and experienced harmoniously and in balance. And so the return to sexual intercourse and its primary function for humanity, for humans, is the power of the orgasm. The power of the gosh, why can't I say this word? The power of the orgasm has been so greatly misunderstood, and it's reduced to this such primal utilitarian purpose of creating and impregnating life. But the fear that has resulted due to uneducation, ignorance, these politics and these religion ideologies around what constitutes life has resulted in such fearful, short, and ultimately unenjoyable lovemaking between people who sometimes are not even love bonded. They may be married, but they're not love bonded. And I think that's the difference between religion and what I'm talking about here in terms of erotic connection. You may be married to someone that you are not love bonded to. Want to check out why? If you're not relaxed when you're making love to your partner, that's a pretty big sign. You have no intimacy with yourself and therefore with your partner. If you're getting BV, if you're getting thrush, if you're getting vaginismus, if you're getting any of these kinds of recurring issues, there might not be the partner for you. It might not be the right one. And so that's the biggest difference between a cultural or religious or political bond or connection between two people, is that love. And by the way, you may have gone out and married your partner of your own self thinking that it was love, and then as you go through the relationship understand that it isn't. But there's a societal construct around not only monogamy but also what a relation is and what its function is, and what a family is and what its function is. But that's a different story. So we're just talking about love bonded people. So between people who intend or do not intend to produce a child, and by people who have no idea how to create life or not create life. So there are no barriers to having intercourse. You're allowed to do it with anyone, whenever, right? And so what that's done is create over time a greater and greater and greater distortion in this strange and seemingly arbitrary way of being able to produce or not be able to produce, whether that's offspring or whether that's manifestations or whatever it may be. So the fundamentals of how to create are so greatly misunderstood that that's why we have IVF, that's why we have fertility clinics, that's why we have all of these different things. That's why there are so many manifestation courses teaching you the 5 steps to manifest. So we really need to move away from such fear-based conception of all kinds. And there's a lot of potential that the way in which we even conceive a child in the future will change. There's a huge possibility for that. So I think it's important to spend time talking about creations other than human life and what kind of energy you need to bring into your body beyond the localization of that energy, the sexual energy in your genitals. You need, I'm not going to go into tantric principles because there are so many people who talk about that, in every forum, about how you can move beyond just a focus on ejaculation, man or woman, and that you must realize that really this call to conceive something at that basic level is like level 1. But how can you bring in a more advanced level that you can create and collaborate on creations in a higher frequency to coordinate appropriate creation according to your coordinates, according to the coordinates of the people whom you are creating this outcome with, whether it's a child or something else. And so the first thing, obviously, is that we need to be free to move beyond the fear, move beyond the shame, move beyond the repulsion of sex, of, this act of grotesqueness that even sexually liberal people may still hold some aspect to. So the difference between sexually liberated and sexually embodied is going to become clearer and clearer and clearer as we move forward in time, and you'll start to see and most importantly, feel the embodiment of different people. And the embodiment of your sexualization, of your sexual energy, of your life force, of your vitality, that in this new, it's still very new, it's still very nebulous, but it's more grounded than and it keeps becoming more grounded. It keeps wanting to ground itself here. It keeps wanting to come and embed. So you can feel those women who are really embodied deeply into their body. They're feeling pulled closer down to the earth. They're slowing down. The repulsion of going into a 9 to 5 or into urgency or any of that kind of stuff it's not just uninteresting to them anymore. It's completely repelled. Like, it doesn't exist in their reality anymore. Okay? And then you start to feel their center of gravity is very low. Very low. So we already know that orgasm and orgasmic state can have something to do with intercourse, but can also not have anything to do with it at all. Tick, we know that. We've done that. We've been there. Orgasm can have something to do with intimacy. So what we now need to get into is when we move beyond sex into intimacy. What is the real meaning of intimacy? It's intimate relation, right? It's intimate connection. It means you feel everything. You're open to that. You trust and you inhabit safety. And if you don't have an intimate relationship with yourself, if you don't have an intimate body connection, then you cannot be fully embodied, because the embodiment only goes to the extent where it's open and available. And if you're still holding shame, you're still holding fear, you're still holding resentment or whatever else in the place of you that is creating, the erotic life force energy will not allow you, the intelligence and organizing principle of erotic life force creation is that it will replicate itself. And so it will not replicate shame. It will not replicate fear or loathing or hate of self. Because you, in replicating self, you can only do that from an erotic life force point. Shame doesn't create on this planet. It destroys. It disintegrates. It creates mold and the disintegration factor, right? So it's not a creation force. It's not something that is going to go out and create outside of itself. And so a feminine embodied sexual erotic being is creating the replication of herself through herself. And that orgasmic state, that erotic state of being is the true creator. That's the creation force. The way in which you seek to replicate that which you are outside of yourself from holding a frequency so powerful and strong of intimate connection with self and self-love and unconditional love in connection to the infinity of state of all that is, where in the field of potentiality you replicate. So for orgasm, it's a state of being registered in your biotechnology system, in your body system, as a connection to pure love source and creativity. So you may be able to do that when you're 90% pure, when you're 80% pure, when you're 70% pure. But you can only create to 70% of you, right? You can only create maybe something around you, something for you. And that's why manifestation has been so coveted, because it doesn't require you to have a fully erotic embodied being. It doesn't ask of you to sit in silence and sit in your shadows. It doesn't ask of you to know thyself in such a deeply intimate way, in such a pure eyes sort of way, where the shame of you, the like the rage and the wrath and the anger and the parts of you that are stirring and stirring in the deep underbelly of you, they're not asked to be dealt with, because when you're manifesting, you're up here. You're pulling it from the ether and you're trying to bring it to you. And it's called law of attraction for a reason. You're trying to hook and attract. Then you have the law of magnetism. You're trying to, be a little bit more in your body and like emit a signal, and that then sort of puts out a whistle call to come to you, to magnetize that which is in a likeness. We're talking about something beyond that now. We're talking about creating a new earth reality of a greater order, where there is no war, famine, distress, all of these things. And how does the world create that? Through erotic embodied femininity. Because the mother and loving energy and the connection to the creative life force erotic zone that we all as women have biological connection into needs us as pure vessels. It doesn't mean that we don't have the shame anymore, but it means that we are aware of it, that we see it, and that as we look deeply into it through the embodied erotic self of us, we alchemize that. We say, there cannot be shame in the eroticness of me, in the eroticism of me. I am the pure love vessel that I be. And I love even the part of me that feels shame, that has told to feel shame, that has been convinced to feel shame, because the only way that part of me comes home to me is through the love connection that I have with my intimate self, my true intimacy with who I be, with who I be. I call that heart, I call that home. And so you are engaging not in a sexual intercourse relationship with yourself, but a truly intimate relationship, a very love bonded, soul purpose, dream state of erotic power, where no one and nothing can ever take anything from you anymore or inflict a belief system on you, because you know yourself. You are so intimately connected with every single speck of dust within your basement that someone flings something at you and you say, I know. And isn't it amazing that I am this way? That I have these lessons, that I am feeling myself through my own evolution, that I am my own teacher and that I am my own creator, and that which I create out into the world is a dream that is so big and it's so extraordinary for women to never have this kind of shame inflicted on or programmed into them again. I hold that dream as reality because I can sit with the shame that I have had inflicted on me, and I don't flinch. I don't run. I don't get triggered. I don't react. I don't go and fuck around anymore. Because the shame that was inflicted on me comes from an unloving source that doesn't have anything to do with my erotic self. And I am intimately knowing and every day developing a deeper and deeper and deeper relationship with the erotic being that I am. And that's the shift, right? It's not about who can come to save me, who can heal me, who can make me feel better, right? It's not that. but it is about sitting in a place within yourself, in an intimate setting within yourself, where you feel and activate the polarity of the masculine and the feminine. So the masculine and the feminine in you, and you are sitting and you are holding those polarities and activating those polarities and feeling the electromagnetic force, the sparks that flying between them. And you are becoming erotically and intimately connected to the polarities within you. You learn to love and hold the masculine in you, and you learn to hold and love the feminine within you, the yin and the yang, the shadow and the light, the duality that exists on this planet. You start to use that falseness, or that introduction of the laws of this earth in your favor. And you say, how can I start to work with duality in a way that helps me to understand the polarities of this? What if that was the intention all along? What if the erotic, magnetic, embodied version of me is the skill that it takes to swing that pendulum from both sides, and to hold myself in both extremes intimately and with loving, compassionate eyes and hands, such that I don't ever have to be in the full extreme of either, or I can, and nothing matters. I can be an extreme and I can be not. And who I be in this moment is the intimate connection that I have, and from there the materialization to be implanted via my biotechnologies, electromagnetic systems, via my connection to the earth, via my connection to my community. And I can witness the electromagnetic waves that are modulated and directed for the materialization of this dream to come. And that can only happen in an erotically awakened body. And so I hope that you're starting to hear the difference here. Erotic being and erotic living is not about having better sex, although that's usually and very often a byproduct of this work. And I will not take that away from you. But what starts to happen is that you start to understand that whatever resources or requirements are needed are pulled through into that electromagnetic force. Okay, so perhaps you need more people, perhaps you need new materials, perhaps you need water, perhaps you need whatever it may be. And if you are able to collect a group of women, or women and men, as the case may be for your individual awakening process, activation process, you will know, do you need men or do you need women? Do you need equal numbers? Do you need whatever? You will know that. But if you can assemble this group on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, whatever it may be, even if it's just you and a partner, and you can hold your two polarities in erotic connection, in that dance, and feel the pendulum swinging, and you can feel the intimacy connecting, and you can hold that nuanced version of the reality that you are all seeking to create onto the earth, in your imaginations, in your hearts, in your womb space, in your erotic self, and you get a full and complete picture of the creation, and you bring that to you, and you bring each and every person's coordinates into that, their activation codes into that, and you have this intention of creating this new idea, this new image of how life could be. Then if this creation is indeed an ideal match for the earth, and it's in harmonic resonance, and the earth wants to help you, it should not be surprising to you that time would converge and time would collapse into the synchronistic and spontaneous creation of this vision. And there would be a multi-dimensional element to this profound creation, because the seeding of a new earth will actually help so many different dimensions in multiple different timelines, in multiple ways that we don't even conceive of or know. And so it is my truest connection point that we are being supported in such ways to come into our eroticism, to come into our sensuality, our sexuality. And the reason that I say that is because sometimes in life, when you go on this path of erotic embodiment, it's not that all opportunities open to you. It's actually that all of them close to show you the way to go. And so I think the difference for me personally in my life's work in this domain, let's call it, is that when you're in the space of manifesting, or when you're in the space of opening up energy, for the simple point of opening it up, to expand, to experience, and when you stay in this manifestation space and you're staying in the identity shift space and you're opening from what was old and maybe not working for you into what could be, then you have infinite possibility and potentiality. I.e., you have lots of choice. You have to make decisions. As you go further along the erotic pathway and you start to really embody your erotic self, i.e., your life force energy, your vitality, the purpose that you are here for, to create out of, actually all the doors close. And life becomes very easy on the domain of what should I do? Who should I be? There's an identity that starts to crystallize or form for you, and you understand this is not the totality of me. You understand this is the best aspect of all of the facets and traits that I have available to me in this life, in this body, in this mind. These are the best combination of traits, qualities, characteristics that help me to fulfill this particular pathway. And you go through that one singular door. And so when I talk about the infinity and the potentiality, is that now you use that infinity amount of energy available into a very directed and very precise way. And so as you walk through your erotic embodiment pathway, your choices become fewer and usually down to one eventually, and you have no plan B. You have no other option. It is this. And you're so connected to the desire of that and the eroticism of that and the vitality of that, that it starts to be this reticulating and ever-present loop of infinite energy. And you know that whatever it is next that is required to come will. Whatever is next will show up. And it's not that you build trust and faith first and then you go and act. It's that you build eroticism and intimate connection with self. You become so connected to who you are, so connected to the wounds, to the traumas, to the difficulties and the challenges, and you become so intimately expert in them and the gifts and the opportunities that they have unlocked and activated within you. The catalyzing effects, the alchemical effects take effect, take their form, and you start to disassociate with traumas, with wounds, with obstacles and barriers, and you start to only associate and remember and understand and unlock and work within the gifts that those challenges alchemized within you. And so this pain to pleasure, this pain to power is all part of the very natural unfolding of becoming the erotic being that you are. And you naturally invite more pleasure. You naturally invite more eroticism, more fun, more dance, more capacity to feel. And you no longer shift away or run away from the feeling. And that's really why this podcast is called Becoming Flame, because instead of that sensation of running from the past, of running from the trauma, of running from the difficulty, you stop, you turn, you embody, and you stand within that flame until your body becomes so hot, so emboldened with flame, that you burn all that is no longer required. And you realize you just needed the heat from that stuff to alchemize that which you do need. In Australia, there are many, many native trees that only get seeded when the fire comes. They need fire, not only to burn down what isn't there any longer, but to pop and explode the seeds that could sit there for years and years and years waiting for the fire to come. And that fire comes, it resets the ground, it resets the earth, it resets the space that it needs, but it cracks that seed open and it flings them as far as they needed to go, because that spot where it was dropped might not have been the spot that it needed to grow in. And so once you start to understand the codes of the country you're in, help you to understand the codes that are needing to be activated within you and the erotic nature of that. You won't feel the same fear or shame in having shame. I see that a lot in women. They're so shameful that they have shame, as if it's their fault, as if they went around collecting shame in a vacuum. My dear, my darling, my love, you grew up in patriarchy, you grew up in misogyny. There is a system of control and power that hates you and wants you small and wants you uninitiated. Your initiation has got nothing to do with their belief systems about how powerful you are. So adopting their shame and kowtowing to their system of your powerlessness is your choice. And as long as you choose the shame, you will feel it. But when you really turn around and you look at the shame, and whether that's about sexual shame, about body shame, about being a woman, about any other thing, but that shame is the door and the padlock on your erotic self. And when you get enough anger, enough rage, enough wrath to feel the full anger of the shame that they have put onto you, have programmed into you, disseminated in every possible which way they could, so that you feel scared of who you are, so that you don't initiate an intimate relationship with yourself. When that flame gets turned up hot enough to crack that seed of you open, to burn away the old and phoenix rise the new, you will not be able to start falling in love with yourself, because you are the most amazing and deeply intimate connected thing to love itself. You are love incarnate. And the moment that you start falling in love with yourself, as cliched and disgusting as that sounds, but in an erotic way, in an intimate love way, you need to sing the love songs to you, because they're spells. They're spells. Sing it to you. Look deeply in the eyes of yourself in the mirror and sing those love songs that you sing. Sing who you be. And you will be so surprised at when you're tapped into your erotic self, into the connection of you, how free-flowing that voice will be. I never thought I was a good singer until I started singing love songs to myself, and I was like, I sing beautifully. I sing beautifully. Because when you grow up in a culture where there are pop stars who sing and who are good singers, and if you are not one of them, you are a bad singer or you're not to be singing, then we gatekeep our own selves from our own gifts. Singing is the most primordial biological functionality of ourself to express joy, to express ourselves in harmony, in frequency. Music is the key to our hearts. Music is the key to our freedom and our imagination, our creation, and our eroticism. So you can create businesses in this way. You can create books, you can create artworks, communities, friends, and indeed new structures, particularly as the pioneers of these new earth communities. You need to be in your physical body. You want to know the reason why okay. You will find a new kind of loneliness. And although you don't have to feel lonely, it's likely you will, because you will be alone in the very initial sense. So let me explain. So many of us have felt so lonely for so many years in this physical existence. For many of us, the deepest loneliness comes from our blood families or our childhood friends, from people that we've known or have known us for a lifetime. And in many ways, the knowledge that you need to leave some of them or all of them behind to pioneer your erotic self and your erotic turn on and living from this embodiment, that loneliness is actually an initiation point if you can withstand it. Because there is an epidemic of loneliness on this planet. The anatomy of loneliness exists in each of us because the structure of a capitalist patriarchal system inflicts loneliness. COVID inflicted loneliness. Why? Because we are biologically created to connect, to live in community, to live in tribe. But each one of us needs to heal the deepest wounding of the human race, which is that sense of aloneness, which is that sense of disconnection. And as we receive and accept the invitation to connect deeper with your own body, with your own eroticism, with your own intimate connection to self. So every single aspect of you needs to be on board in communication, in connection, in village internally first. Then you connect to what people would call God or source or whatever higher element of you, the creator, in the dreaming. So a fully connected being, i.e. you, connects to the love of all that is the creator God, the highest power of knowledge and wisdom and truth. And that connection, that fusing of reconnecting back there, then trickles out beyond you and this into a connection in a deeper way. And it may or may not be with the original people, but it will allow you to get a felt sense of connection in a deeper way than you've allowed previously.
So it's disallowing any real loneliness to be felt if you don't go into it. And you need to go into the terrible pain of being alone, of being forgotten, of being disconnected, to walk into a true connection. And sometimes that's a solo journey, but it's that sense of reuniting with true togetherness that reunites you, and any fractures in your soul, any fractures in your body, any elements of you that are disembodied or unable to get into the body as a result. It's like that sense of sitting with you, and then with that fully connected sense. And so anything that anyone ever throws at you before, it's like, I'm good. I'm so loved here. I'm so intimately loved here. And from that place is when you start to magnetize the community, the tribe, the togetherness. And you see that new vision for your life, for your community, for the way in which you wish to belong, right? So it's reimagining belongingness from an erotic embodied self. Because when you are erotically embodied in yourself, you are not seeking for a lover to complete you, to give you what you need, to fulfill you in a way you cannot fulfill yourself. And your intimate relationship with self, and your intimate relationship with creating the life of yourself as an erotic being, fully and wholly intact, cannot exist until you sit with that loneliness, and you sit with that disconnection, and you reconnect every single part of you that fractured, that feels alone, that feels isolated, that feels forgotten, that feels shame, that feels all of these other things. You put all of that together, you reconnect with your God, your source, your creator, whomever it is. And from there, you are whole. The erotic embodiment creates the wholeness. It creates the fullness. It creates the togetherness in you first, so you can create the togetherness outside of yourself. It will power you up. It will accelerate your speed. So you go really slow until you accelerate and you amplify your actions. And you will go so much faster this way than working alone and disconnected. Because when you come from an erotic embodiment, you hold the innate belief system because you intimately know and love yourself, and you intimately know and love the creator of all that is, and you are connected to the infinity space. You are connected to the field of potentiality, and you know that this will be a reality. You just don't know how or when, but that's irrelevant because you're working towards a goal that you know will be. So if it takes you 10 years, if it takes you 100 years, does it matter? It doesn't matter. The only way that it matters is when you're disembodied and you're seeking validation from a system that wishes you were erased. Why would you do that? So when you're in your body, you're erotically powered up, you have the staying power and the vitality and the energy source and the love and the connection and the resources and the connection to the field of potentiality. You know the inevitability of your actions, the inevitability of your dreams, the inevitability of your visions and your togetherness and your community is. You act with certainty. You act with certainty. When you are in your erotic self, when you are intimately connected to yourself, you get rid of time and competition and all of these external factors that keep everybody else in the hustle and the grind and the wheels spinning. And you act with certainty because it is certain. It has been written, you have received it, and you are acting on the received vision, the received knowledge, the received information of the world in which already exists, that you are here to bring into a physical manifestation in a way that you can participate in. And maybe that's you changing to where it already exists. Maybe that's you building it from the start. It doesn't matter, because it eliminates any sense of difficulty or loneliness along the way, because you know the moment that I need someone to come along on this journey with me, they will be here. And because you all have masculine and feminine poles within you, and indeed the mechanism of your sexual energy without sexual intercourse, whatever. It doesn't matter if you're doing it with a group of all women or all men or mixed. You are all in the activation of the poles of your masculine and feminine, balanced in your erotic selves, acting with certainty, and imagining yourself along a group of people who are going to manifest this and to create this new way of being, to bring this in simply because they are fully within their body, and the biotechnology system of their body is all that is required. So hold your vision, hold your dreaming, and activate your connections to source love, activate the Earth's electromagnetic power within you, activate the electromagnetic power within your body, your biotechnology system, through that masculine and feminine pole, through your DNA, through the waters of your being, and feel that pull from multiple directions, maybe multiple timelines, maybe past, maybe future, and you start to understand, wow, this is not linear. It's all constructed from a viewpoint of control. It's all constructed from a viewpoint of artificial, hierarchical, linear systems. And that means that it's changed the function and the programmation of your brain to understand hierarchy and linearity. But from your erotic self, your brain chemistry, your constraints, the blinders on your brain will fall away. And you'll experience that as it all converges into the now, as if you are physically weaving a new timeline, a new space together with your creation. And you do that more strongly and more powerfully in this orgasmic energy, this erotic energy that you're in. So you're bringing it here, because here is all that you are. There is nowhere else. If you tap into and you feel like, oh, I feel like I had this timeline here, there, and that, there is only here. That reality, that parallel aspect of you is playing out 100%, but you have the ability to learn those codes, to activate those codes within this biotechnology system. It can help you move into any functionality where you have conscious access into it through a body that is grounded and here and online. And it is your eroticism, it is your embodiment of that eroticism that helps you experience what time has been constructed as, and see it as it collapses. Or not. No judgment, just observation and curiosity. Because you will develop a stamina to doing this. You'll develop a rigor to do this. You know, the endurance in the physical body, in your biotechnology system, does not come from doing something once. It comes from practicing, from holding the stillness, from holding the inner focus, and actively listening, actively bringing those polarities and opening them. Opening up to your superordinary abilities that are innate to you from the erotic body, from the balanced body. And as you hold and open and activate with each entrainment, you are being taught how to use eroticism. And that's the thing, right? We don't know what this can do. We're like a minute into what is going to be the next eon, the next era. Aren't you so excited to see what it's going to be like to build a world from eroticism? When you think about, I want to be in my erotic body so I can have more sex or better sex, versus I want to be this erotically embodied feminine being of creation that will literally recreate and create a world in which I wish to live, in which my children wish to live, in which everyone's children wishes to live in. And I can be the catalyst for change. I can be the alchemist here. I can be the one to stand up and say these systems of injustice, of segregation, of separation, of disconnection, of isolation, of loneliness, of anxiety, of depression, of sickness are not acceptable any longer. I will no longer accept the abuse of a system, the abuse of oppressors. Because in my being, in my erotic truth, there is no abuse. There is no extraction. There is no raping and pillaging of the earth. There is no depletion when abundance and prosperity are the birthrights of all. And that's eroticism. That's life force energy. Life force energy is about seeing all beings and acting in their best interest in the way that your body acts as compass, acts as tool. Your blueprint is here. Your blueprint is here. Drop in, listen, follow. Stop running from how you're feeling. Turn deeply into it. Become the flame of your own evolution and the alchemy. Alchemy needs heat. The phoenix needs to burn. The fire from the dragon comes from within. I love you all so much. The sermon has finished for today. Be well. I'll see you next week.